It's late October in 𝐥𝐲𝐿, and across the land, farmers are harvesting their beautiful crops of cempasúchil and other flowers to make decorations, headdresses, and ofrendas for the Day of the Dead, Día de los Muertos. I made the trip to the small pueblo of Capula to see the Catrina Festival. This small town is known for its artisans of pottery and especially of Catrinas. As I make the drive on not-so-familiar roads, I'm reminded that the countryside of this part of Mexico is so beautiful, and that I have fresh eyes to appreciate it since I don't come this way much. I've been to this sleepy town before. It's close to where I originally stayed in the area with Julio and Emilia in 𝐥𝐲𝐬𝐿𝐫. I like Capula because it always seems sunny and it's a bit warmer than by the lake, and I'm loving the warmth right now. It's the kind of sleepy pueblo I could think of living in full time, surrounded by beautiful countryside, with hills and mountains covered with lush pine, oak, and fir trees, and close to attractions and activities like Pátzcuaro and Morelia. In my imagination, I'd buy a nice house here with a garden and live and get to know my neighbors and the rhythms of this part of 𝐤𝐤𝐿. I easily found a place to park on a side street and walked over to the crafts fair. It was Thursday around noon and there were people around shopping and taking pictures and eating, but it wasn't crowded. So let me tell you a little bit about the history of Catrinas. One of the most popular and well-loved crafts of Capula are the clay Catrinas. The Spanish word Catrin is often translated as dandy, an elegant, well-dressed man. That, of course, makes Catrina his female equivalent. Catrinas almost always wear glamorous hats and sometimes snake or feather boas, and it's not uncommon for them to be seen smoking cigarettes or carrying fancy purses. While a Catrina can be depicted on a mural or in a painting, the Catrinas in Capula are all made of clay. There are statues ranging in size from as tall as your finger to near life-size Catrinas ready to welcome guests into your entryway. Capula, a village of about 5,000 people in between Morelia and Pátzcuaro, is the Catrina capital of the world. It all started with Jose Posada, who was a Mexican printmaker and graphic artist producing advertisements, posters, and political cartoons in the 1870s. His satirical work targeted the country's new rich and its notoriously corrupt figures, including President Diaz. Diaz is lauded for modernizing and bringing financial stability to Mexico, but he also led his government in repression, corruption, and excess, and had an obsession with European materialism and culture. This part of Mexican society copied the customs and dress of Europeans and generally played down or denied any indigenous heritage they had. So the artist and printmaker Posada used skeletons dressed in European clothing to represent Mexican bourgeois class and call attention to what he thought of as their hollow lifestyles and lack of moral ethics. He was regularly published in newspapers that were very popular. His work might have been forgotten were it not for Diego Rivera's inclusion of a Posada-like skeleton lady in his famous 1946 mural Sueño de una tarde dominical en la Alameda Central. In 1980, another Mexican artist, Juan Torres, unable to afford the rents in Morelia, moved out to the rural village of Capula. There he worked on his paintings and sculptures, but he also came up with an idea that would foster economic growth in his new town. Torres thought that Capula would be an ideal place for crafting Catrinas. The residents knew how to work with clay and they knew how to paint. He opened up a workshop and began training them on how to adapt these skills to making Catrinas. These students have gone on to train others, and today there are over 62 families in Capula making Catrinas. Now, Catrina and Catrina have become very popular costumes during Day of the Dead celebrations in Mexico and everywhere. They typically feature calavera skull makeup. The male counterpart to Catrina usually wears the same skull makeup and black clothes, often a formal suit with a top hat or a mariachi costume. A cane might also be part of the costume. I'm really glad I didn't skip walking around outside the Catrina Fair along the main street of Capula. There I saw artisans working on their arts and crafts, and I met 𝐿𝐫𝐸 Martinez working on her giant Catrina. She has a lovely shop here in Capula, and I bought a present for my son from her lovely collection of skulls, Catrinas, and other pottery. So the Catrina Fair in Capula was wonderful, and more I'm thinking this part of 𝐤𝐿𝐵𝐿 is a great place to settle. Really, it's beautiful, there's so much going on, the terrain is lovely, the weather is great, the people are friendly, and it's not expensive, so there's a lot of great reasons to stay in this area. At the festival, I got my son this skull for his new house. I didn't buy anything for me yet because I don't have a permanent housing situation, of course, but eventually I'll buy my favorite Catrina and I'll bring it to my new house, and I'll probably get it at the Catrina Festival. It's an exciting week here in Pátzcuaro, and as the whole area gets ready for the Day of the Dead, everywhere you look are beautiful decorations and preparations for this special holiday. And I'm so glad to be spending my first Dia de los Muertos in Mexico.